Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. 4 in 5 university students now use generative AI, and organizational adoption has hit 88%. And yet most people still picture AI as something happening in a lab somewhere, not in their kitchen or their morning commute. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on how everyday people are actually using AI right now. What tools are genuinely making a difference, what the data says about whether it's working, and how to figure out where AI can actually help you, not just in theory, but tomorrow morning. I've got someone here who's been deep in this space, so let's get into it. What's the thing about everyday AI adoption that most people are completely getting wrong?
The biggest misconception is that AI adoption is something you opt into. Most people are already using AI whether they know it or not. According to CEDIA, the global smart home community, AI is already embedded in everyday home systems, smart thermostats, lighting systems, even fridges that track your groceries. People aren't choosing AI, it's just there.
Wait, my fridge?
Your fridge. CEDIA specifically calls out fridges that track your shopping and work out when you'll run out of ingredients. And your thermostat that lowers the temperature at night because it learned you sleep better in the cold. These aren't things you programmed. The system figured it out.
That's actually kind of unsettling in the best possible way. So let's back up a little. When we say AI in daily life, what are we actually talking about? Because I think people hear AI and immediately think of like robots or something.
Right. So at its core, AI refers to computer systems that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, learning from data, recognizing patterns, making decisions, understanding and generating language. That's the definition from Technology for Learners. And when you apply that to daily life, it shows up in a huge range of places.
Like what specifically?
So on the home side, you've got Google Home and Amazon Alexa integrating with lighting, heating, and security. You've got AI security cameras that can tell the difference between a fox in your yard and an actual intruder. That's a real example from CEDIA. And then on the work side, people are using AI to summarize documents, organize emails, transcribe meetings, generate reports. The range is enormous.
And the scale of adoption is genuinely staggering. The Stanford Hey AI 2026 AI Index found that 4 in 5 university students now use generative AI. That's not a niche thing anymore.
Exactly. And organizational adoption reached 88% according to that same Stanford report. So this isn't early adopters anymore. This is mainstream.
So let's dig into the home piece a bit more, because I think that's where the invisible adoption really lives. You mentioned CEDIA's framing. They describe AI as automating automation. What does that actually mean?
It's a really useful distinction. With traditional smart home tech, you program the sequences yourself, you tell it, turn the lights off at 10 p.m. With AI-enabled home automation, the system learns and adapts without you telling it to. CEDIA puts it this way: your smart devices gradually tweak themselves to match exactly what you need, not what you think you need.
Not what you think you need. That's a subtle but huge difference.
It really is. Because sometimes the routine you think will work for you doesn't actually suit you as well as you expected. The AI figures that out through machine learning. It analyzes your habits and adjusts over time. Do you always turn the heating down when it hits a certain temperature? Machine learning spots that habit and starts doing it for you.
Okay, I have to bring up something from the Stanford AI Index because it's genuinely one of the most fascinating things I've come across. They describe what researchers call the jagged frontier of AI, and the example they give is this. AI models can now win a gold medal at the International Mathematical Olympiad, like beating the best human math students on the planet, but the top model reads an analog clock correctly only 50.1% of the time.
That is such a perfect illustration of where we actually are with this technology. Superhuman at some things, weirdly bad at others. And that jagged frontier idea matters a lot for how everyday people should think about using AI.
How so?
Because it means you can't just throw any task at AI and expect magic. You have to know which tasks it's actually good at. And there's real data on this now.
Let's get into that data, because there's a study I want to walk through. Train Technologies, the industrial company, built an AI personal assistant tool for their 40,000 plus employees and then actually ran a controlled experiment on it. 63 participants split into a group using the AI and a group doing tasks manually. What did they find?
The results were striking and uneven, which is exactly what you'd expect given that jagged frontier idea. They tested 4 common office tasks: writing an email, 3.3% improvement with AI; preparing a presentation outline, 24.8% improvement; Creating instructions for a task, 45.9% improvement, and summarizing an article, 69% improvement.
So AI barely moved the needle on email, but nearly doubled the speed of summarization.
Right. And the study also found that the AI users generated more verbose and higher quality content overall. So it wasn't just faster, it was better. But the gains were wildly different depending on the task.
That's actually a really actionable insight. If you're trying to figure out where to start with AI at work, summarization is probably your highest leverage entry point.
Exactly. And it makes intuitive sense. Summarizing a long document is cognitively exhausting and time consuming for humans, but it's essentially pattern recognition and compression, which is exactly what these models are built for.
So, what does the broader adoption picture look like beyond that one study? Because I've seen some pretty dramatic numbers.
The numbers are genuinely dramatic. According to data from Sana Labs covering 2025, daily AI usage among professionals was up 233%, and 91% of employees now rely on at least one AI productivity tool. That's not a trend, that's a transformation
233% in a single year.
in a single year. And 78% of enterprises use AI in at least one workflow. So the question has shifted from should I use AI to which AI tool for which task?
Let's talk about the specific tools people are actually reaching for, because I think there's a gap between what gets hyped and what people actually use day to day.
Yeah, and the tools that are actually sticking are pretty practical. On the productivity side, you've got Microsoft Copilot for office integration. It works across Word, Excel, Outlook, Teams. Fireflies.ai for meeting transcription, which records conversations, identifies speakers, generates notes, and creates action lists. Notebook LM for research organization. These are tools solving real friction points.
Meeting transcription is one I keep hearing about. What's the actual value there?
The value is that you stop losing things. According to Tech Times, AI transcription apps can record conversations, identify speakers, generate notes, and create action lists after calls, all without you manually reviewing recordings. Teams use these tools to save time and improve follow through. It's the difference between a meeting that produces action and one that just produces a vague memory.
That's real. And then there's the creative side, which I think is where a lot of everyday people are actually finding their entry point into AI.
Absolutely. Tech Times reports that AI-powered design tools like Canva Magic Studio, Adobe Firefly, and Microsoft Designer are becoming essential for creators, marketers, and businesses. And image generators like Midjourney, DALL-E, and Leonardo AI can produce polished artwork, concept designs, and social media visuals within minutes. The barrier to creating professional-looking content has basically collapsed.
Which is wild when you think about it. Someone who has never taken a design class can now produce something that looks genuinely professional.
And that's the broader shift Tech Times is pointing to. Simpler interfaces and prompt-based controls are making creative AI more accessible to everyday users. It's not just for professionals anymore. A small business owner, a student, a freelancer, they all have access to tools that would have required a whole team a few years ago.
Let's zoom out for a second because I want to bring in something from the Stanford Hage AI report that I think reframes this whole conversation. They say AI's benefits won't be evenly distributed unless we guide its development thoughtfully. That's a pretty significant caveat.
It's a really important one, and it connects to what the MDPI paper on AI's impact on modern society describes as the dual nature of AI. It's both a catalyst for innovation and a source of potential disruption. The same technology that helps one person summarize documents faster might displace another person's job entirely.
So it's not a simple good news story.
It's not. The MDPI paper specifically highlights implications for employment, privacy, and decision making. And Our World in Data puts it plainly, AI systems already shape what we see, believe, and do. That's a lot of influence to hand over without thinking carefully about it.
And yet the adoption curve isn't slowing down. The Stanford report says AI capability is not plateauing, it's accelerating and reaching more people than ever.
Right. And some of the performance jumps are genuinely hard to wrap your head around. On a key coding benchmark called SWE Bench Verified, AI performance rose from 60% to near 100% in a single year. That's not incremental improvement, that's a step change.
From 60 to near 100 in 1 year.
In 1 year. So the question for everyday people isn't whether AI is going to be part of their lives. It already is. The question is whether they're engaging with it intentionally or just being carried along by it.
That's a really sharp distinction. Intentional versus passive. And I think most people are currently in the passive camp using AI without really thinking about it.
which isn't necessarily bad, but it does mean you're leaving a lot of value on the table. If you're only using AI for the things it's mediocre at, like writing a quick email, and not for the things it's genuinely transformative at, like summarizing a 50-page report in 2 minutes, you're not getting the real benefit.
Let's talk about the AI agents piece, because that's something the Stanford report highlights as a big leap. AI agents went from 12% task success to around 66% on OS World, which tests agents on real computer tasks. That's a massive jump.
It is. And OS World is testing agents on actual operating system tasks, the kind of thing you do on your computer every day. Going from 12 to 66% means these agents are becoming genuinely useful for real world computer work, not just answering questions.
Though they still fail roughly 1 in 3 attempts on structured benchmarks, right? So it's not perfect.
Not perfect. And that's the honest picture of where we are. Dramatically better than a year ago, still not reliable enough to hand over completely. Which is actually a useful frame for everyday users. AI as a collaborator, not a replacement.
A collaborator. I like that framing. And it connects back to the Train Technologies study. The AI users generated higher quality content, but they were still in the loop. They weren't just pressing a button and walking away.
Exactly. The study found that AI users generated more verbose and higher quality content, but they were still the ones directing the work. The AI amplified their output, it didn't replace their judgment.
There's also something interesting happening on the multimodal side. AI that can handle text, voice, and images together. Tech Times describes these as multimodal conversational agents. How does that change the everyday experience?
It makes AI dramatically more natural to interact with. Instead of having to type a precise query, you can speak, show an image, describe something in whatever way comes naturally, and the system understands. Tech Times notes these systems improve customer service by understanding user intent more naturally and contextually. But that same capability applies to personal use too.
So you could take a photo of a broken appliance and ask an AI how to fix it.
Exactly. Or take a photo of a meal and ask for the recipe. Or record yourself speaking and get a transcription and summary. The modality barrier is basically gone.
And on the language side, real-time translation is something Tech Times specifically calls out as a major application. That feels like it has huge implications for everyday people, not just businesses.
Massive implications. AI tools now enable instant translation of spoken and written language across multiple languages in real time. Tech Times frames it as breaking language barriers in travel, business, and online meetings. But think about what that means for someone navigating a foreign country, or a family where different generations speak different languages.
That's a genuinely democratizing technology. It's not just a productivity tool, it's an access tool.
And that's the piece that often gets lost in the productivity conversation. AI isn't just making existing things faster, it's making things possible that weren't possible before for a lot of people.
Let me push back on something though, because I think there's a real tension here. The Stanford report is pretty clear that AI's benefits won't be evenly distributed. So who's actually getting left out of this?
That's the right question to ask. The MDPI paper on AI's societal impact highlights that AI reshapes economic landscapes and raises serious questions about employment and privacy. The people most likely to benefit are those who already have access to good devices, reliable internet, and the time to learn new tools. The people most likely to be disrupted are those in roles that AI can automate, without necessarily having the resources to transition.
So the 233% increase in daily AI usage among professionals, that's probably skewed toward people who were already in a strong position.
Almost certainly. And that's why Stanford HAI frames it the way they do. AI is poised to be the most transformative technology of the 21st century, but its benefits won't be evenly distributed unless we guide its development thoughtfully. That unless is doing a lot of work in that sentence.
It really is. Okay, let's bring this home. When you step back from everything we've covered, the invisible adoption, the productivity data, the creative tools, the uneven distribution, what's the through line?
The through line is that AI in daily life is already here, it's already working, and it's already uneven. The Train Technology study showed us that the gains are real but task specific. 69% improvement on summarization, 3.3% on email. The Stanford report showed us that adoption is accelerating faster than most people realize, and CEDIA showed us that a lot of this is happening without people even noticing.
So, the actionable insight is Figure out where AI is actually strong and start there deliberately.
Exactly. Don't try to use AI for everything. Use it for the things where the data shows it genuinely moves the needle, summarizing long content, generating first drafts of structured documents, transcribing and organizing meetings, creating visual content. Those are the high leverage entry points.
And be honest about where it falls short. The jagged frontier is real. An AI that can win a math Olympiad still can't reliably read a clock. That should make you thoughtful, not dismissive.
Right. The MDPI paper frames it well. AI is both a catalyst for innovation and a source of potential disruption. Holding both of those things at once is actually the most useful mindset. Not uncritical enthusiasm, not reflexive skepticism, just clear eyed engagement.
Clear-eyed engagement. And I think that's what separates people who are genuinely benefiting from AI right now from people who are either ignoring it or just getting swept along by it.
And the window to develop that intentional relationship with AI is right now, while the tools are still evolving and the habits aren't fully set. Because if the Stanford numbers are right and AI capability is accelerating, not plateauing, the gap between intentional users and passive ones is only going to widen.
Here's what I'd leave people with as a concrete starting point. Pick one task you do repeatedly, summarizing meeting notes, drafting a weekly update, organizing research, and try an AI tool on it for 2 weeks. Not forever, not for everything. Just one task, 2 weeks. See what the data shows you.
That's the right approach. Because the trained technology study didn't just show productivity gains, it showed that AI users generated higher quality content too. So you might find that the output is better, not just faster. And that changes how you think about the tool entirely.
We started this episode by pointing out that 4 in 5 university students use generative AI, and most people still think of AI as something for tech insiders. By now, I hope that gap feels a little smaller, because the reality is AI is already in your home, already in your workplace, and already shaping decisions you make every day. The only question is whether you're driving or just along for the ride.
And the good news is, getting in the driver's seat doesn't require a computer science degree. It requires knowing which tasks to hand off, which to keep, and staying curious about where the line is, because that line is moving fast.
Thanks for being here for this one. That's a wrap on Copilot Podcasts. If your fridge is smarter than you thought, now you know why. And if your AI can't read a clock, well, at least it can summarize this episode for you.